So regardless of his political views, which were sometimes very controversial, I think he was an extraordinarily effective and very brave political operator.
What do we know so far? Can we confirm that he is dead?
It looks, I think, almost certain, although his team, when I last looked, has yet to confirm it, but I can't see any circumstances in which Russia would announce that he's dead when he wasn't. I think it's timed to coincide with the Munich Security Conference annual big shindig in the Bavarian capital, where his wife Julia was actually was going to speak this afternoon as one of the keynote speakers. So it's a deliberate snub to the West, showing that Putin is utterly unbothered by our sanctions and our disapproval. And it's obviously a terrible day for Navalny's family and colleagues. It's a terrible day for the Russian opposition. It's actually a terrible day for Russia as well, because it shows just how tight the grip is of the Putin mafia state.
Let's talk about him as a man and what has happened in recent years. He was in the Arctic circles in Siberia. What sort of conditions would he be living under?
Well, he was in one of the harshest, if not the harshest, penal camps in Russia, in the very far north, and had actually just been put in a punishment cell. And I was just looking at his recent tweets, because somehow he manages to get tweets or on postings on X. It is now out. The two most recent ones said, they've just put me in a punishment cell again. They're just gesturing. It's gesture politics. The one before that was a very touching message of love to his wife, Yulia. I think it may have been on the anniversary of when they first got together or some other important occasion. But he was, I think his spirit was absolutely unbowed. And it is worth remembering, he went back to Russia of his own free choice because he felt that in exile he couldn't be an effective opposition leader. And he went back after the previous attempt to kill him when they smeared nerve agent on his underpants. And many of your listeners may remember the extraordinary prank call he made, where he impersonated a senior official, managed to find the person in charge of the death squad who'd been trying to kill him, and got this person to confess over the phone to the details of the plot. So regardless of his political views, which were sometimes very controversial, I think he was an extraordinarily effective and very brave political operator.
He was a tremendously eloquent one. I've been reading his quotes this morning: swindlers and liars, thieves, a system built on lies and greed. Putin's only goal to stay in charge for life with the entire country is his personal asset. Has he been, do you think, really a thorn that Putin has felt in his side? You know, is there a sense now that he had to go?
I think there was a time when he was extremely effective, and he really highlighted the greed and lies of the Putin system in a very effective way. More than 10 years ago, he kicked off with stunts such as just writing thieves and crooks on every banknote with little stamps. Every time you picked up a Russian banknote, you'd look at it and see whether some Navalny supporter had put this very pithy epithet on it. He did videos using drone footage to expose the colossal size and grandeur and actually also vulgarity of some of the Putin's palaces. And he built a very effective nationwide movement of anti-corruption activists stretching right across Russia. It was probably the biggest independent political organization in Russia. And for a time, he was also quite useful within the Russian political system in a way as a sort of safety valve. And there was a rumor that Medvedev, who at that time was the sort of supposedly reformist president, had given an order that Navalny shouldn't be killed, even though people might want to kill him, because it was quite useful as a way of sort of political weapon. If you wanted to get your own back on a political rival, you'd sort of leak some stuff to Navalny and it would come out as a sort of great expose. But I think those times are over now, and Putin basically wanted to squash him, not so much because he was a threat to Putin. I suspect this is really a message to the West.
And just in a line, really, does he have effective heirs?
There's some impressive people in his team. I would say that the real heirs to the Russian opposition are now the armed forces of Ukraine. That's the real opposition. And I hope that the response to Navalny's murder will be that we double and redouble our support for Ukraine, because they're the people who are actually giving Putin a headache. There's nothing at the moment happening inside Russia which is of any great significance. That may change in the months ahead, but right now the Ukrainians are the Russian opposition.
Putin must realize he will not get what he wants on the battlefield. So if we want a lasting peace, we must continue to provide Ukraine with weapons and ammunition.
Freiheit, Sicherheit und Frieden. Insofern nochmal ganz herzliches Dankeschön.
There is no imminent military threat against any NATO ally. NATO continues to ensure there is no room for miscalculation in Moscow about our readiness to protect all allies. With more forces, higher readiness, and increased defence spending. This year, I expect 18 allies to spend 2% of GDP on defence. And I welcome that Germany is among that number. Strong NATO is good for Europe and for North America. Together, we are half of the world's economic and military might.
Do you believe that? Like, what is your first reaction?
Well, that would be a horrible thing. I would track his condition constantly, but I haven't heard that. I hope that that is not true. It would be a horrible thing. Starvation, lack of care in the prison conditions, is that what he died from, or do you think it was an affirmative act? I think we have to find out more, but in any case, it's a horrible tragedy if it is so. But his imprisonment is a horrible tragedy, period. Thank you.
We've heard the reports from Russia of Alexei Navalny's death in prison. For more than a decade, the Russian government, Putin, have persecuted, poisoned, and imprisoned Alexei Navalny. And now, the reports of his death. First and foremost, if these reports are accurate, our hearts go out to his wife and to his family. Beyond that, his death in a Russian prison and the fixation and fear of one man only underscores the weakness and rot at the heart of the system that Putin has built. Russia's responsible for this. We'll be talking to the many other countries concerned about Alexei Navalny, especially if these reports bear out.